I was attending a webinar just the other day that focused on evidence-based practices when it comes to the learning process. And this is one thing that they talked about. They talked about a lot of things, but this is the one topic that's pertinent for our conversation today in the snapshot. And that is focusing on content that we are assigning to our students, to our learners in the classroom, focusing on taking time to read that content ourselves. Now, we've talked in previous snapshots about the importance of engaging in discussions, right? We want to be participants in the discussions. That is just a great role model for our students. And it also helps us stay current with the discussions that are having and that students are having, and to make sure that we are being effective coaches and facilitators in the learning process. So that's what I want you to think about today. When is the last time you picked up the textbook or a literature article that you've assigned and actually read that textbook or that article yourself? Now, this is Billings and Halstead Teaching and Nursing. This is the textbook that we use to align our content that is discussed during our snapshots, as well as during any of our content review. When we look at curriculum for every single snapshot, every single boot camp or resource that we provide for you all on your CNE journey, we want to make sure that it's aligned with the evidence. We want to role model these practices for you. 70 to 80% of the questions on the CNE clinical, and CNE novice exam will be at that application and analysis level. This is why you want to take the next step as you join us for any of our content review in actually following along. If you are listening to us on YouTube exclusively and maybe you're not able to catch the video, we encourage you, whenever you get to your destination or whenever you're able to carve out more time, to turn on the video and take a look at the content. This is going to increase your ability to retain the information at a higher level. Okay, so that's going to allow you to be more productive and effective as you move forward on your journey. Welcome everybody to Dr. Sellars Educate. If this is the first time you're joining us, we're delighted that you have found us. And if you're returning, we're happy that you're here as well. So as you think about what your next steps are going to be, we always like to start with step one, which is pulling out your resource, Billings and Halstead 6th edition, if you are on the CNE journey. If you are showing up here to become a better nurse educator, then we do recommend the 7th edition. Now, don't worry. If you have the 7th edition and you're on your journey, there is a crosswalk that has been published by Elsevier, and it's right here in the description. All right, so we're going to take a new look at a different type of technology. Okay, so the technology we're going to use for this snapshot is our iPad. Yes, we've used it before, but this time we're going to use it in a different way. Why would we use an iPad for a snapshot? Well, what we want to do is increase engagement, and we do that by using various technologies in the classroom. We don't want it to be a distraction. We want it to supplement our learning experience that we are having with our students. And the step that you can take when you are using your iPad for the virtual experience, because we know we have a physical whiteboard or even a smart board when we have students in the actual classroom or clinical setting, and in the skills lab setting as well. But when you don't have that, then you can simply plug in your iPad to your actual computer. And then what you want to do is click on share, okay, just as if you were sharing a presentation. And once you click share, you should be able to see your actual iPad. Now, it may take a minute, okay, so don't get frustrated or discouraged. If it's a little slow, that's normal. You will see here on my screen that I have shared just a snapshot of an update from a colleague that was just emailed to us. Well, actually, it was messaged to us on LinkedIn. And they said, hi, I passed my CNE today. And that was actually yesterday. They said, thank you for motivating me. We always like to keep our colleagues motivated because we know that this journey can be a challenge for so many, right? There's life that happens. We can have the best intentions, and then something can kind of get us off course. And we want to make sure you're getting back on track. And you do that by staying connected with the resource, with the support, with the coach to help you along the way when you do have those more difficult days, or sometimes it can be a difficult week or month. The next section that we have already identified and really copied and pasted into our whiteboard, our virtual whiteboard, is the actual clip of the candidate handbook. This is from the CNE candidate handbook, and this is directly from the NLN website, okay? And if you haven't been there, I encourage you to go to nln.org. And then once you get there, you'll click at the top, NLN certification, and then you're going to choose whichever exam you are planning to take. If it's the C&E, then you will click on C&E, and then you'll see the handbook option on the left-hand side. So what is it that we want you to focus on? Well, you want to take a look at which content is it that's relevant for you during our time together today, which brings us to our study worksheet. That is listed also right here in the description. There's a link that will take you directly to this worksheet. Now you may wonder, why am I having to pull out a worksheet? Why can't I just listen to this content that will help me on my journey? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. 70%, that's how likely we are to increase our chances of retaining information when we write it down. So we are 70% more likely to retain when we write it down. So we want you to write down today's date, okay? So whatever that date is for you, we want you to write it down. So let's hear about what your next steps are going to be. Now, this is an honest question I want you to think about. How many of you have attended a conference, a webinar, any type of experience where you were sitting and you were retaining information? Okay, so how many of us have done that in the past, let's just say week or two? I'm sure some of you are raising your hands. Go ahead and put it in the chat or in the comment to let us know me. Just type in me. That way we know that we have connected with our audience. All right, so when you reflect on what that experience was like, I want you to write down two things. Number one, what was your objective from that experience 1 to 2 weeks ago? What is it that you wanted to accomplish? Okay, so what was your why? Why did you show up for that webinar, for that conference, maybe for that meeting, right? What was your objective? And then number two, what was your takeaway? What did you learn from that interaction? Every single interaction that we have when we're in a learning environment or in a meeting, we want to walk away with information that is going to help us increase our competence, increase our confidence every single day. Just 1% better. That's our goal. Every single day, we want to get 1% better. All right. And then next, what we want you to do is to reflect on what you're going to focus on the next time, or maybe it's just showing up here. What is that key element that you want to walk away with during your next interaction that you have with the learning experience? It could be that you're going to write down just one goal that you're going to achieve, one action step that you're going to take once you complete that learning experience or complete that intervention or that meeting and interaction that you're having with that person or with a group of people. All right, so now what we're going to do is transition into our content where we're exploring what you should focus on and should not focus on as you move forward in exploring the really important content area of curriculum. We're going to be using Prezi for this snapshot. And if you're not familiar with Prezi, what I encourage you to do is to go to prezi.com, take a look at some of the tutorials that they have, and just consider using different technology. Even though it may be new for you, the more you use Prezi and other technologies, the more familiar you'll become, and you'll be surprised at how proficient you become in just a short period of time. Over the next several weeks, we'll be focusing on what content is it that you should hone in on as you move forward on your journey to achieve nurse educator excellence or to become a better nurse educator. We're going to hone in on a specific area, which is curriculum, to continue on our journey to explore this really important content area as you think about where your gaps are today and what strategies you're going to use to close those gaps as you move forward. Curriculum is essential. We talked in our previous snapshot, which you can locate right here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it already, it's listed right here in the description, where we define exactly what is curriculum and what are those key elements that I want to focus on as I move forward on my journey to have a better understanding of curriculum. And most importantly, how can I improve it? How can I improve the program outcomes for our nursing program to increase the competence of our students? So that's number one. And number two, help ensure that there is alignment from a faculty standpoint. We know it's really exciting when you meet with the regulatory bodies and they're so complimentary of your nursing program. However, when there are gaps, it can make us all feel anxious and overwhelmed. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into our content. We're going to take a look at our thought-provoking question. So this question is related to the curriculum. You are mentoring a novice nurse educator about data collection and curriculum development and program evaluation. Which statement best describes the role of nurse educators in understanding data collection methods in curriculum evaluation? A, to explore the relevance and effectiveness of clinical experiences. B, to evaluate trends in student and faculty satisfaction with the program. Or C, to provide objective evidence for curriculum revision decisions. So 2 thoughts that you want to consider. Number 1, what is this question asking me? And then number 2, what is it that I know for sure regarding content that is listed in this question? Okay, every single question that you see on the C&E exam, those are the 2 thoughts we want you to consider before you narrow it down to what you think is going to be the correct option for that question. All right, so now we're going to move to our presentation of our content, and then we'll come back as we wrap up our time together and answer our thought-provoking question. When we focus on content to help us achieve excellence and to ultimately best support our students, we want to make sure that we are maximizing our time by focusing on the right content. That's what this snapshot is all about. How do we ensure that we are prioritizing the right content that will help us achieve success? We're going to be exploring, first of all, curriculum, right? We are deep into this specific topic area, and we want to make sure that there is solid alignment so we know what to focus more on and what we should no longer have to focus on. In Billings and Halstead, you are going to continue to focus on chapters 6 through 9 to give you a deeper understanding of this content area. First, we're going to think about curriculum implementation. What are those strategies that help us ensure that we are supporting the success of our students and ultimately that we are achieving the program outcomes that our nursing program has outlined? AAC and Essentials is our first topic area. Do you think that this is a focus that you should have as you move forward on the journey for C&E? Or should it be an area that you focus on to achieve nurse educator excellence? Or is it both? All right, so go ahead and take some time to put it in the comments area, or you can put it on your piece of paper, yes or no. Do you think that this is a focus area for C&E success? All right, we'll give you all a second to think about that. Okay, so if you said no, it is not, you are correct. So let's talk a little bit about this. AAC and Essentials are important when we think about reviewing and aligning our content in our nursing program with these standards. However, when we look at the C&E exam, there is not content that you're expected to know related specifically to the AAC and Essentials. Now, you do want to understand that there are standards of excellence when it comes to program alignment and curricular elements that we want to make sure are present in our nursing courses. However, it is not expected that you are an expert when it comes to the C&E exam related to those essentials. So if you chose no for a C&E exam, but yes for Nurse Educator Excellence, give yourself a round of applause. Next, let's talk about curriculum implementation. So which are the elements that are important? Which are the elements that we want to make sure we hone in on to ensure that we are knowledgeable about questions on the exam and to ensure that we are achieving excellence in the classroom? Well, you do want to focus on this area because it is a large focal area, as we see as described on your screen. So what are those behaviors? Remember, we talked about analysis and application being a large percentage of the C&E exam. We have to be able to demonstrate knowledge and be able to design curriculum to reflect evidence-based practice. What about this one? In-depth historical perspectives of curriculum evolution. Do you think that is important for C&E or more for Nurse Educator Excellence? If you chose no for C&E, you are absolutely correct. This is not a focal area when it comes to the C&E exam. Now, we'll share what is a focal area, and that is nursing and learning theory. We want to understand the rationale behind our decision-making when we are developing content for our courses, and ultimately when we are mapping out what teaching strategies we are using to help our students learn. COBE experiential learning theory is just one of those examples. We want to make sure that we are aligning our content that we are teaching in the classroom, that didactic content, with actual clinical experiences. This goes back to our initial conversation and making sure that we're looking at our textbooks and aligning our content that we're teaching in the class, making sure that it's relevant and still applicable to the content and the application that students are learning about in the skills lab, and ultimately that they're demonstrating in the clinical setting. Okay, last one, the use of case studies to demonstrate practical application and of curriculum concepts. Speaking of COBE's experiential learning theory, what do you think about this one? Do you think it's important for us to use case studies when it comes to curricular elements to help you pass the CNE exam? Or is it more nurse educator excellence, or maybe it's both? If you chose yes, you are correct. This is a focal area that you certainly want to leverage and have a solid understanding about when it comes to the CNE exam. Our ability to look at frameworks that we talked about in a previous snapshot. And if you have not seen the previous one, we're going to drop it right here in the description because it's a great foundation to help you get started in looking at curricular elements that will help you achieve success on the CNE exam and also help you become a better nurse educator in the classroom. So what's your number? We want to know. How are you feeling about content related to your curriculum? 1 would be you feel very lost, or 5, you feel ready to teach. We always like to wrap up our snapshots with 2 points. Number 1 is encouraging you to keep going, as you can see in Shelley's testimonial here, that she utilized the self-paced online review course, she purchased the workbook, and she also followed along those study suggestions for the 7 weeks, and she was able to be successful on her first attempt. And she says, I highly recommend to anyone who needs more structure during their CNE exam preparation. Structure is key. We don't want to waste time reviewing content that is not going to help us be successful on the exam. And we also want to hone in on those skills to help us become a better nurse educator. Now, sometimes we want to focus on different content to help us achieve success on the CNE exam. It's similar, we like to say, to preparing students for NCLEX, right? There's information that's good to know, and then there's information that students must know in order to be successful. We want to be able to discern between the two as you move forward on the CNE exam. We hope that this snapshot has been helpful, and we're going to take a look at the correct answer to our thought-provoking question before we close out. But you can reach us by emailing us, info@drsellarseducate.com, or you can check out our website, which is drsellarseducate.com. All right, so now we're going to transition over to our thought-provoking question, and let's see how many of you chose the correct answer. All right, so everybody hopefully has had a chance to write it down. Those of you that chose C, to provide objective evidence for curricular revision decisions, give yourselves a round of applause. You're absolutely right. That is the best answer. Now, A, it talked about exploring the relevance and effectiveness of clinical experiences. Well, that sounds like a pretty good one, right? That's collecting the data that is going to be meaningful and help contribute to our final decisions about changes we want to make. And then evaluating trends, that's good too. However, C is the most comprehensive answer because it's going to take into account A and B. If you didn't choose the correct answer, we don't want you to be hard on yourself. Know that these are thought-provoking questions that are going to help clarify muddy points and direct you to content in the textbook to help you have a deeper understanding of these concepts. Until next time, we look forward to seeing you in a future snapshot. Reach out if you have questions. Have a great one, everybody.